To today's meeting on May the 20th. Just a reminder that members of the public are reminded that the full authority board committee meeting is being recorded and will be posted to the authority's website along with the
Sorry.
that's okay. Along with the official written minutes. As such, comments and any comments expressed by individual board members, guests, and the general public are their own and do not represent the opinions or comments of the full authority and or the KCCA Board of Directors. The recorded video of the full authority meeting is not considered the official record of that meeting. The official record of the full authority meeting shall consist solely of the minutes as approved by the full authority. So with that in mind, do we have any declarations of pecuniary interest today at all? Seeing none. We have no hearings today, so let's move to the minutes of the meetings. We have the April 15th, 2020 special meeting and the April 15th, 2020 full authority meeting. Are there any questions or comments or corrections that we need to make with those at all?
Mr. Chair, just before we do that, can we conduct a roll call of members?
Sorry, yes, I forgot. Yes, so we need to do a roll call. Sorry, folks, getting ahead of myself. Okay, Elizabeth, you're going to do that? Okay.
Dennis Kravitz.
Here.
Dominique Giguère.
Present.
Stephen Harvey.
Here.
Grant Jones.
Here.
Bill Mackey.
Here.
Steve Peters.
Aye.
Joe Preston.
Here.
Elizabeth Pelosa.
Here.
Allison Warwick.
Here.
Ralph Winfield.
Here.
Mr. Chair, we have 10 members present at the meeting today.
Thank you very much. Okay, now going back to our agenda, then we have the minutes of the meetings on April the 15th. Do we have any corrections or anything that needs to be added to those minutes at all? We'll just deal with them as one package, or should we deal with them separately, Elizabeth?
I have a motion on the screen that deals with them both at the same time.
Okay. So any corrections at all, folks? Comments?
I would so move the minutes.
Thank you, Grant.
I'd second it.
Thank you very much, Ralph. Are we going to do all of our votes recorded today, Elizabeth?
Mr. Chair, I think that was the preference indicated last meeting.
Okay, perfect. Okay, let's take a vote then on the minutes of the April 15th special meeting and the April 15th full authority meeting, that they be approved.
Kravitz.
Yes.
Giguère.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
Peters.
Aye.
Preston.
Yes.
Pelosa.
Yes.
Warwick.
Yes.
Winfield.
Yes.
Harvey.
Yes,
That motion passes.
thank you very much. And so now we're getting into our matters arising, media report, project tracking, watershed conditions, and tree planting update.
Mr.
Want
Chair.
to touch on the media report first?
Sure, Mr. Chair. Most of our media right now has been social media. Marianne's been very busy keeping people up to date on the various announcements, especially related to our properties. But we've also had a variety of watershed condition statements and flood outlooks released recently. In terms of project tracking, again, staff included in their project tracking and pretty much everything they've been working on for the past couple of months. You'll see a lot of evidence there of staff really working diligently to increase the amount of contactless transactions we have. So increasing EFT payments, e-transfers. A lot of training has been completed. UAV training has been completed as a cost share between Kettle Creek, Lower 10th and Central Elgin. Marianne likewise has been doing some work on a website audit for AODA compliance. Betsy was able to secure $40,000 from the Green Lane Community Trust to continue the Elgin Clean Water Program. And staff have been very busy, as all staff have been, in terms of developing safe operating procedures. So that was, Mr. Chair, media tracking and project media report and project tracking. If members would like, we can just go through all of these various updates and do one receiving motion at the end.
Sure.
So May watershed conditions, water levels throughout the watershed are fluctuating with the spring rain events. We've issued 3 flood watches since we last met April 12th, 28th, and May 16th, as well as the ongoing Lake Erie shoreline flood outlook for the high Lake Erie water levels. Just one other update to add that occurred after the watershed condition statement was released in the advanced package. What you're seeing on the screen is a shot of the Dalewood Dam. And if you look at the third bay here, you'll notice that we've lost one of our top stop logs out of the bay. It appears that a large log came down in one of the most recent high water events and took that log out. So you can see a close up here. There should be 2 logs joined together here by a brace. And in this bay, you can see only 1 log, and the top log is been broken apart by this large tree that has come down the system. The good news is that staff have money in the capital budget this year to replace that log, to replace all of the logs. We will just have to determine when it is to source the logs and when it's safe to complete that project. So in the meantime, the public may see a decrease in the water levels throughout the reservoir, but they should stabilize over the next couple of months.
Okay. Is there any questions at all about those reports at all, folks?
Peter's question.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To Elizabeth, regarding that log, do we know whereabouts in Kettle Creek is it right now? Do we know where it is?
Staff only identified this, I believe, had an opportunity to go searching for it downstream. The logs themselves it's probably not salvageable. If that's the question, the logs were slated to be replaced because we were concerned about the quality of the log.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions at all, folks? How's the, we had a significant rain event last weekend. How did we fare with that, Elizabeth?
There wasn't the rain amounts that we expected. So overall, water levels rose within the system, but there was no flooding per se.
Okay.
We had issued the warning just based on the forecast.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And now for the last update, I'd turn it over to Betsy to provide an update on the spring tree planting program.
Great.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. It's been a big team effort this year to undertake our tree planting program. So it's been all hands on deck of the full-time staff, which has been really great. Our Greening Communities program, which is where we provide 20 seedlings or more. So for those landowners that don't have a lot of land area, we had over 49 orders come in, totaling over 2,000 trees. And so rather than the typical pickup system that we would normally do, all orders were packed, organized into 6 different delivery areas in the municipalities that they were from. And over 2 days, the water conservation supervisor and the resource assistant both completed all those 49 deliveries using safe operating procedures. Next slide. Similarly, with our over-the-counter tree sales, we had 41 orders with over 13,000 trees. And once again, that would normally be a system where people come in whenever they want over a 2-day period and pick up their trees. But this year, Any orders of around 200 trees were delivered, but any of the larger orders, so that was about half of them, were picked up by landowners at the office on May 8th. But instead of sort of a free-for-all system, we had different loading areas that they were assigned to and 20-minute pickup windows so that there was no overlap of customers, and so that we could have their trees out for them with no contact with staff. And lastly, our actual tree planting program this year, we basically focused on sites that we could machine plant with the tractor and planter, as we felt we could keep sort of social distancing in place with that method. So we ended up with 9 sites totaling just under 20,000 trees, which allowed us to also maintain funding from OPG and Forest Ontario. Those sites started on May 11th. The crew's out today again, and we're hoping to finish by this Friday.
Betsy, how has the response been from the public having to do with the new way of picking things up and getting things delivered?
It's been great. I think some of them really appreciated the delivery service. And everyone's been respectful of, you know, just keeping their distance. And we sort of, especially for the sites that we're planting, usually we'd have a lot of personal contact with the landowners. So that's all been done by phone and email. Or before we went out to plant, we would drop off flags so they could, you know, show us exactly where they wanted their windbreak rows to be lined up. So it seems to have worked really well.
Okay. And the planting team, we haven't lost anybody yet?
Nope, they're doing really, really great.
I have to comment that staff has just been absolutely outstanding during this whole COVID thing and getting things done. It's just exemplary. So I want to congratulate them. I know most of them are not here, but I'm sure you folks can pass that along. But you know, the board really does appreciate the fact that they're going above and beyond. Okay, any other questions at all about those matters arising at all, board members?
No.
Seeing none, I need a motion and seconder for that the staff reports under matters arising, A through D, be received. Moved
Peters.
by Peters, seconded by
Winfield?
by Ralph.
So on the motion, Kravitz,
Yes.
Jaguar,
Yes.
Harvey,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
Peters,
Aye.
Preston,
Yes.
Pelosa,
Yes.
Warwick,
Yes.
Winfield.
Yes.
And the motion passes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is correspondence from MECP to Conservation Ontario about the emergency orders. Elizabeth, do you want to touch on that at all?
Mr. Chair, I don't have anything to add. I think it was fairly self-explanatory on both items of correspondence.
Okay, great. Any questions at all from people on the correspondence?
No.
We're pretty quiet today. That's good. Seeing none, we need a motion that the correspondence be received. Moved by
Pelosa.
Pelosa, seconded by
Mackey.
Mackey.
On the motion, Kravitz,
Yes.
Jaguar,
Yes.
Harvey,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
Peters,
Aye.
Preston,
Yes.
Pelosa,
Yes.
Warwick,
Yes.
Winfield.
Yes.
And the motion passes.
Thank you very much. Well done. We're just whipping through this today. Okay, we're into statement of revenue and expenses. Elizabeth, anything there?
Mr. Chair, it was forwarded in the advance package unless there was questions from members. I don't have anything specifically to add. You can see the revenue and expenses for each program area Obviously, the campgrounds actuals, you're not seeing the start of the season in these actuals as they're dated April 30th.
Okay, we'll see that next month then. Okay, any questions at all from members? Seeing none. Motion that the statements of revenue and expenditures dated April 30th be approved.
Warwick?
Moved by Warwick, seconded by
Jiguer,
I'll second.
Jiguer.
On the motion, Kravitz,
Yes.
Jiguer,
Yes.
Harvey,
Yes.
Jones,
yes,
Mackey,
Yes.
Peters,
Aye.
Preston, Joe Preston,
Did we lose him?
I was on mute, sorry, yes.
Pelosa, Pelosa,
Yes.
Warwick,
Yes.
Winfield,
Yes.
and the motion passes.
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is report on the COVID-19 budget impact. Elizabeth, you want to touch on that?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'll touch on this. Since the COVID-19 situation started, staff immediately looked at cost containment. So no seasonal staff have been hired at this point. We restricted all non-essential purchases. And as we mentioned in the tree planning report, redeployed full-time staff to help out in those areas. Some non-essential capital works have also been delayed, such as the Wi-Fi towers at the campgrounds. Revenue losses could be substantial, especially if the campgrounds don't open. We've already seen loss of day use revenue in terms of pavilion rentals, especially at Dan Patterson. Permit fees in our planning and regulations are expected to decline, but hopefully will recover in the long term. And there's a number of fee-for-services contracts that we won't be able to undertake this year, especially relative to education programming like the Children's Water Festival. Staff have also exhausted what we believe are all possibilities in terms of wage subsidy. This chart kind of outlines that. So the temporary 10% wage subsidy offered by the federal government we've applied for, and our current benefit qualification is roughly $15,000 based on the staff that we have present today. Canada Summer Jobs, we always apply for that on a yearly basis. We've applied again this year. Our application is pending, but we hopefully will get our full amount again this year, which would be roughly $22,000 in support for seasonal staff, especially related to the campgrounds. The Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy, we talked about this last month and whether or not the authority would be qualifying for that. It has seesawed back and forth a number of times whether CAs are eligible. But yesterday we had advice from CEO's legal counsel that CAs are not eligible as public institutions. We're seen as public institutions under the Income Tax Act and are therefore not eligible for that wage subsidy. Staff have run a number of budget scenarios, and I would say that this applies both to the budget report that I'm delivering now and the next report on our opening plans. As I'm sure all of you are aware, things are changing daily, and so as much as we're trying to plan, the next day something arrives that causes us to change our plan. So this is budget scenarios, but obviously they're rapidly changing and adjusting. We've tried to run scenarios in terms of where the campgrounds don't open at all, where we're not allowed to get seasonals or transients in. There's still significant operating costs to the campgrounds, even in that scenario. We have to maintain the upkeep of the pool, the grounds, security, as well as the trails. And there's $167,000 in full-time salaries that the campgrounds support. So worst case scenario, the operating reserve drawdown if the campgrounds don't open, you can see from the chart, would be roughly $335,000. That's taking the projected deficit from the campgrounds as well as the planned capital operating reserve drawdown that we had planned for 2020. We also looked at a 3-month prorated plan for the campgrounds to open with just seasonals coming in. Obviously, whatever scenario we can get the campgrounds opening, the drawdown or the projected deficit decreases. Even on a 3-month prorated scenario, we would need a minimum of 10 seasonal staff to get the campgrounds up and running, and we'd be very tight on our operating cost to get to a deficit that's projected in the graph. Would result hopefully in a break-even situation, so that's our best scenario that we're looking at right now. Again, a minimal staffing complement would be 10 seasonals. We would have tight operating costs, and under this scenario, we're assuming pretty much that all the seasonals would still choose to camp, regardless of the restrictions that are placed on their camping experience this summer. So if we can get all the seasonals back into the campgrounds, it's a break-even situation. And then if we were able to open up for transient camping in some shape or form, that would definitely help out things as well. To give you a little peace of mind, the reserves are healthy, and under the worst case operating reserve drawdown of $319,000, our reserves would be able to sustain that and still be in good shape for next year. And obviously what I showed in the staff report were worst case scenarios, and staff are doing everything that they can to contain costs and look for revenue opportunities that are still safe under these restrictions and at this time.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I have a question. We are not the only conservation authorities in this position. Is there a wide range of planning going on right now, or is everyone doing pretty well the same thing?
Mr. Chair, I'm doing weekly conference calls with the Grand, Long Point, and Catfish to both share ideas and to try to look and be as consistent as we can in the decisions that we're making for our CAs. It's been very beneficial to share that amount of information. I don't know if that's what you're looking for in terms of sharing information with other CAs.
Yeah, like I guess I just, you know, you think of Catfish, for example, and what they're doing, the Long Point, what they're doing, Grand, what they're doing, you know, the bigger ones versus the smaller ones, and is everyone pretty well doing the same thing? Or are there hybrid versions of, as far as campgrounds and budgetary, is everyone sitting with pretty good reserves or not?
I couldn't comment on that, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
I think that everyone is trying their best to look at the campgrounds opening. Certainly it is a revenue generating for most CAs, and is something that is going to lessen the impact of COVID on the CAs.
Okay. Excellent. Any questions at all from board members?
Mr. Chair, I have one.
Sure.
Through you to staff, wondering if we've considered not opening the pools, if that's going to be a major cost for us that would potentially affect the budget drastically, as recognizing it's a great feature that some people enjoy, that if it's the difference of making it financially stable for us to open, has that been considered?
So, Mr. Chair, to Elizabeth, the pools right now we are considering not opening to the public, but it's our understanding in terms of talking with our pool maintenance officials that we still have to do a minimal maintenance on those pools to prevent damage to them and to not incur increased costs next year when we go to open them. So we are looking at minimal costs to those types of amenities. I don't know if Joe wants to add anything to that answer.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, basically the advice from our pool consultants that we rely on is that there is some opening procedures we would have to do with the pool to prevent dry out in the pipelines and things like that, as well, because it's an outdoor concrete facility with a plaster type interior lining that has to stay wet. So we do have to raise the levels, get the pumps operating and things like that, and maintain some level of chemical supply, but not to the level we would to meet health unit requirements for use of the pool. So it won't be similar cost to if we were open to the public, but there are some opening procedures and costs that would be associated, as Elizabeth said, to maintain the infrastructure.
Thank you for that. And also wondering what kind of condition is our campground sites in right now in regards to being potentially able to open, recognizing last year the roadways needed some work done, some graveling and some site work to prep for the season. Through you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, I'll let Joe answer that, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Yeah, so we did see very similar, not quite as bad, but very similar wet conditions as what we had last year. But certainly some of the weather that we've seen in May has recovered. Our staff have been regularly doing roads maintenance and trying to maintain and keep up on the grass. So I think there's further discussion in the reopening plan report that's coming up. But I think staff are on par or on progress to be ready to open once allowed to.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, hearing none, we have a recommendation in front of us here, folks, at the staff report on the COVID-19 budget impact be received. Looking for a mover and seconder.
Mackey, move it.
Moved by Mackey. Seconded by
Pelosa.
Pelosa.
On the motion, Kravitz,
Yes.
Jaguar,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
Peters,
Aye.
Preston,
Yep.
Pelosa,
Yes.
Warwick,
Yes.
Winfield,
Yes.
Harvey,
Yes.
and the motion passes.
Thank you very much. Okay, next is the COVID-19 facility openings.
Mr. Chair, I'll start with this, but I may turn things over to Joe at a certain point. There's been various provincial announcements over the past month, which has allowed KCCA to open back up some of our facilities. This started on May 10th, I believe. Provincial parks notified that they would be opening for day use May 11th, and the remaining areas opening up May 15th. KCCA followed suit, opening our trails up on May 15th. And you can see from the picture on your screen, this was a shot that was taken at the Dalewood Reservoir Trail on Saturday. If you know from our news release, we noted that the Dalewood Reservoir Trail was actually closed until Monday to provide staff with a little bit more time to get some bridge work done. Staff were out repairing the bridges and couldn't keep the public back. This is the small parking lot just off of the dam area. I don't know if you can see in the picture, but there's 3 or 4 canoeists or kayakers there and a full parking lot at about 3 in the afternoon. The next picture here is along Dalewood Road, facing north. Again, just evidence of the amount of people trying to access the Dalewood Reservoir Trail. That was taken at the same time. And then just another shot along the reservoir of families already out enjoying some fishing. So the actual announcement of our trails opening couldn't have come at a better time. It was probably the best day of weekend, but it's just evidence of how much the public is really desiring to get out and enjoy nature at this time, especially some of the trails that we're offering. We did go out with an education campaign. Marianne came up with this graphic, responsible recreation Just noting that we're asking people to stay home. If the parking lots are full, come back. And that's, there's limited access to some amenities and some good best management practices to follow on our trails. The next announcement came from the province on May 14th and announced private parks and campgrounds may open to enable preparation for the season and to allow access for trailers and recreational vehicles whose owners have full season contract. To be honest, this created some confusion amongst the public. Some interpreted this as the campgrounds were open as soon as this past Saturday. So we did go out with some messaging to correct that. What it gave to the province is basically saying we can begin to prepare for opening, and we've started to do that. In terms of what opening will look like when the date is announced, staff are really working hard to try to balance expectations of our different user groups. So we know the board is going to be concerned about budget. Campers are concerned about their experience, that it be as close to normal as possible. And staff, to be honest, are very concerned about safety as we continue to open up more of our properties. What we are proposing in this staged approach, as the province is as well. The office would remain closed at this time. The remote access and services is working well. Program areas like environmental monitoring would gear up as PPE becomes available and restrictions loosen, as well as funds are allowed. Hiking trails, we've opened those spaces up. The Kettle Creek Dog Park opened up as of this morning. And day use, including pavilion rentals, would not be supported due to gathering restrictions at this time. Full refunds or reservations or the offer to move reservations to 2021 are currently being offered to those users. The current campground status is there's no trailers on our site. So that is why we haven't opened it up immediately to seasonal camper access. We have been cutting the grass on all sites as conditions warrant, and campers have been allowed access throughout the closure to retrieve property through appointments with the coordinators. This will continue until the province allows camping to occur. Before the announcement in terms of allowing us to open, staff have been doing a variety of research to look at what other provinces are doing to control COVID within campgrounds as they open up. We did put out a survey to inquire as to how different restrictions would affect their decisions to camp this summer. The response to the survey was terrific. Almost 80% or more of campers responded, of our seasonal campers responded. You can see here that we asked them about the closure of the swimming pool, playgrounds, and beaches. If all of those amenities remained closed, would that change their decision to camp? Pretty consistently, about 20% said they would decide to not camp and request a full refund at both campgrounds. How would the closure of communal washrooms, showers, and laundry facilities affect their decision to camp? Again, about 20% at both campgrounds would decide not to camp. And the final question we asked is enforcement of social and physical distancing at the campground. If we weren't allowing visitors to seasonal sites or overnight accommodations to transients, would that affect our seasonal's decision to camp? And again, roughly the same amount of people are indicating that they would decide to ask for a refund or defer their payments to 2021. Some of the comments from campers is they just want the opportunity to camp no matter what the restrictions are. They feel that they can follow those restrictions, that they wanted to do a do's and don'ts list. Only a few, again, I guess in keeping with the 20%, indicated that they thought the risk was too high and that they would choose not to camp this year. Most of the campers were looking for some type of discount or prorated fee based on either a shortened season or the loss of some of the amenities that they are normally used to in the summer. So based on that response and our research of how other provinces were dealing with campgrounds opening, as well as some guidance that has been provided by our provincial government as well. What staff are proposing is that we would allow access to campers to bring their trailers in beginning June 1st, that no camping or overnight stays, even of seasonal campers, would be allowed until the province okays that. We do believe that okay will come June 1st. That's based on the provincial parks look as if they're going to be opening June 1st for camping. Freeze would be prorated and season extended until October 18th. Washrooms are the biggest of staff's concerns right now. In order to clean them to the standard that is being floated in terms of best management practices would require a significant amount of staff as well as PPE. And some of the guidance that's coming out from the province is that you should be limiting as much as you can the public access to washrooms. Again, really advocating that the campers use their own washrooms in their trailers. So that is a caveat of our opening, that the seasonals coming in would have working washrooms in their trailers to use and perform their own pump outs. We would open washrooms as staffing is available, as PPE is available, and only to a limited extent, so that we know that we can live up to the expectations of a clean washroom at this time. So we would be proposing, once we do make that decision to open them, that it would only be that limited to one, and the hours of those openings may be restricted as well, just again to encourage campers to be using their own facilities. The gatehouses will remain closed. Shower and laundry and all communal amenities would remain closed. No vend sales at this stage would occur, including ice and firewood would not occur. No overnight guests or visitors beyond those listed on the permit. 2-meter distancing from other campers and staff at all times. The distancing between staff and campers would be strictly enforced. And all of these rules and regulations, campers would be asked to acknowledge before they entered the campground. So in terms of, again, that balancing act of expectations, what we're really looking from the board members today is their feedback on how well we've balanced the expectations of board, campers, and staff. We do anticipate that some seasonal campers will choose not to camp. I believe we have about 5 indicating that they would like a full refund or to defer their payments to 2021 at this time. And I think overall, campers may be disappointed or frustrated with some of the restrictions, but based on the response from the surveys, we know that their biggest concern is they get some enjoyment from their trailers and the campgrounds this year. The last thing I would point out is at this time, because we don't know that we would be able to open for transient campers, all transient camping has been canceled up until May 31st. But starting this week, we would do rolling 2-week notices of transient camping cancellations. And I'll open it up for questions at this time.
May I ask one question of clarification? It's Ralph. Did you say that the dog park opened as of this morning? And how are you going to maintain this physical distancing of the people that are there?
So right now, Mr. Chair, to Ralph, there has been signs posted advocating for physical distancing. We've also notified users that high-touch surfaces are not being cleaned. They're using it at their own risk. That is opening based on, I believe, direction from the province. And we'll have to patrol it if the users aren't respecting what we're calling responsible recreation, then we would be forced to close it again.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Elizabeth.
Yeah, through you to staff. Thank you for the report and very thorough. My main concern is with if we did not proceed with fire sales, that I'm assuming everyone enjoys a fire at their campsite. And by us not selling the wood, we're encouraging them to bring it in from offsite and transporting firewood around our various municipalities, potentially transferring anything that wood might be affected with. Is there a way we could see offering advanced sales of firewood and they do like a curbside pickup at an office, or it's ordered in advance and delivered to their site and they're asked to order a larger amount at once to make sure it's not one bundle per day staff's asked to deliver?
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'll ask Joe to answer this and just give Elizabeth background on how we would normally deal with firewood sales with seasonals.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. As the current phase 1 of the reopening plan only deals with seasonals, our seasonals have been accustomed in the past to be bringing in their own bulk firewood. We do sell bulk firewood, but very limited is it purchased from seasonals. They tend to have a stockpile on their site that they rely upon. The majority of our firewood sales is bagged firewood that is usually purchased by transients or short-term campers. So there may be limited abilities for us to provide some bulk firewood depending on what our supplies are, but my understanding is the majority of seasonals already have a pretty decent stock on their site to accommodate fires for this short-term kind of period that we're dealing with the current pandemic.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chair, it's Dominique.
Yes, Dominique.
Thank you. Through you to staff. So first off, I think the results of the survey are positive. It's nice to see that spirit that people are still planning to camp. I'm wondering if you can expand on enforcement plans for non-compliance. So will it be done by staff? Are we using fines? If you could expand on the plan, that would be great.
Again, if I may, I can answer that one, Elizabeth. With our campgrounds currently, we don't administer like a fine or a provincial offenses type process. We have an established set of rules, regulations, and standards. We always start with education first. We go through a series of verbal warnings for written warnings, and then ultimately evictions. That's how we typically handle our enforcement in the parks. We are looking at preparing an annex or a subsequent agreement to the original seasonal application that would add these additional restrictions as a result of the COVID-19 and the guidelines of the province. So again, for enforcement purposes, we are looking at hiring some limited seasonal staff that would do regular patrols and monitoring, again, through education. But ultimately, if the COVID-19 additional restrictions are not being adhered to, we'd be applying a zero tolerance approach where it could result in an eviction for the season with no refund.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I would just add to Joe's comment. At this point, we're looking at opening up to our seasonals because we had a relationship with them for a longer period of time. I think there's more of a working relationship with those seasonals. We're counting on them to responsible recreation more than we could probably have an expectation of transient campers coming in. Certainly the level of enforcement that would be required if we were to open up to transient camping, that's where I have a concern that we would be able to meet staffing expectations and safety and balance the budget as well in order to allow that level of camping. So at this point, we feel relatively comfortable with opening up to seasonals based on that minimal staffing of 10, with the knowledge that, and I hope my seasonal campers are listening, that they're going to recreate responsibly because they don't want to lose that privilege of being in there this summer. Honestly, I don't see us able to open up to transient camping throughout the summer. Even if the province lifts it, I have a real issue both in terms of staff safety and that balancing of the budget in order to do that. We'll have to look at that decision very carefully in terms of balancing all of those user groups and concerns.
Okay. Any other questions, folks?
Kravitz?
Yes.
It's a good report. I agree with the report. The problem I have with the report is when the province opens up camping, it's very unfair to the Kettle Creek, the Conservation Authority. What happened last week when they made the announcement on Thursday that stuff could be open on Saturday was very unfair. I think we should be sending a letter to the province asking for a little bigger window than 2 days. It's ridiculous. And I think that's something that we should be doing, asking for a 2-week notice before they open camping up, not 2 days. And I just wonder if the board would be interested in pursuing this. Thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth, do you have a comment on that? I know you and I talked about it. Elizabeth?
Yeah,
Okay, sorry.
no, I don't like to dabble into politics. I think it's a very difficult time. I know that's to give you an idea of staff. Last week was a very difficult time for staff. I think as probably your municipal staff as well, we've gotten used to the level of distancing that we have and the workload that we have. But again, we want to balance that expectation of our public to have our properties open and to the standard that they're used to. That was very difficult last week for our staff to pull off opening up our trails in that amount of time. But we did fear the reputation of the authority and the ability to, our desire to offer that to the community. The turnaround time is very difficult. It would be much more conducive to both gearing up our staffing and being able to keep up with the province if we did have that 2-week turnaround time. I'm optimistic that that was what the province was trying to achieve with their announcement last week, in that we were able to open our campgrounds to prepare for opening. But I do think that the public reads into those announcements what they want to hear, and that's part of the problem in terms of communication amongst the different levels of government and the public. The way we're interpreting it is that we are open in terms of preparing to open, but we can't allow camping just yet, and we're going to take the time that's necessary to get our grounds up and ready, and then allow the campers in.
Okay, thank you. Dennis, does that answer your question a little bit or not?
Yeah, yes, that's fine. I didn't know if there was more discussion we wanted to do with this at this point or not.
Okay. Any other councillors got any comments to add to that?
Mackie, through you, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to mention, just from my own experience, there's a lot of frustration out there, and this implementation plan, I think it's excellent. You've covered everything from safety to budget, no stone unturned. I think it's excellent. It's good, and yeah, I think I'd like to support this.
Okay, thank you. I think that the whole notion of the political part of it beyond our control, and I think post haste maybe we can post pandemic maybe we can in a debrief talk about, should it happen again, that 2-week lag time would be really, really nice. But I don't think that they can operate with that. It doesn't seem to be anyways, and whether it's federal or provincial, right? So I'm not sure that Elizabeth's comment about the political part of it, I think, is something that we probably would be wise to stay out of at this point. My own personal opinion. Okay, seeing no other comments, do we have any other comments?
I would like to comment. It's Allison.
Yeah.
I know that it's been very frustrating with the rollouts from the province, and that's with every aspect of the rollouts. I mean, and it's a situation that's unprecedented. just because the province says you can open doesn't mean you have to open right then and there. I mean, it's inconvenient not to open, but a lot of businesses and myself are doing the same thing. Is you know that you can provide a service safely, and then when you can do that, then you open. So I wouldn't worry too much about the transient campers. I think they'd understand it, that we have to make it a safe situation for them, and we use our own timetable to open up. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. More comments?
Kravitz, I'd like to move the recommendation.
Thanks, Dennis. Okay, that staff be directed to implement the COVID-19 facility opening plan as outlined in the staff written and verbal reports. Seconded by
Jones,
Grant.
On the motion, Kravitz,
Yes.
Jiguer,
Yes.
Jones,
yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
Peters,
Aye.
Preston,
Yes.
Pelosa,
Yes.
Warwick,
Yes.
Winfield,
Yes.
Harvey.
Yes.
And the motion passes.
Thank you very much. Okay, the May Planning and Regulations Report. Joe?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As noted in the advanced package, you can see there's not a lot of official approvals or permits that have been issued since the last month and during the current pandemic and emergency orders. However, there's certainly been lots of virtual and remote pre-consultation and commenting on plans. I think there's a heightened sense of landowners trying to prepare and be ready for when certain construction activities can begin again. I believe some of those are starting to be lifted now, so I anticipate some more applications coming to fruition, certainly some planning matters, but it's been quite busy with pre-consultation, but not evidently shown in the report, as we haven't officially made formal approvals or permits being issued, but we anticipate those will start increasing now that some of the construction activities are starting to occur again.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Any questions at all, folks? Hearing none, need a motion, the May 2020 Planning and Regulations Activity Report be received. Moved by
Peters.
Seconded by
Mackey.
On the motion, Kravitz,
Yes.
Jiguer,
Yes.
Harvey,
yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
Peters,
Aye.
Preston,
Yes.
Pelosa,
Yes.
Warwick,
Yes.
Winfield.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you very much. It's time now for our closed session. Are we going to close session now, Elizabeth, or are we going to do our source protection?
Mr. Chair, if it's the will of the members, I would like to go right into source protection and save closed session for after.
Okay.
So the minutes will show a break from the full authority session at 10:55 to go into the Kettle Creek Source Protection Authority meeting.
All right. I'm just going back to my beginnings here. Okay. Board members, staff, guests, and members of the public are reminded that the full authority board committee meeting is being recorded and will be posted to the authority's website, along with the official written minutes. As such, comments and opinions expressed may be published, and any comments expressed by individual board members, guests, and the general public are their own and do not represent the opinions or comments of the full authority and/or the KCCA Board of Directors. The recorded video of the full authority meeting is not considered the official record of that meeting. The official record of the full authority meeting shall consist solely of the minutes approved by the authority. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest at all, folks? Okay, seeing that. Election of officers and administrative approvals. Recommendation that the Kettle Creek Conservation Authority Administrative Bylaw, updated April 15th, be adopted by the Kettle Creek Source Protection Authority. And that the chair, vice chair, and all officers elected or appointed by the Kettle Creek Conservation Authority in 2020 serve in the same roles for the Kettle Creek Source Protection Authority in 2020. Okay, those are two motions for the election of officers and administrative approvals. Any comments? Seeing none, I need a mover and a seconder for these motions.
Warwick, so moved.
Moved by Warwick, seconded by
Winfield.
Ralph. Do we need to do roll call, Elizabeth? Sorry.
We should, Mr. Chair.
Sorry.
So just on the roll call, Krebitz,
Here.
Jaguar,
Here.
Harvey,
Here.
Jones, Grant, if you're on mute, can you just identify that you're still with us?
Elizabeth, if I may, it appears he's no longer listed in the participant list. He may have signed off. Oh, he's back on, but muted.
Yeah. I'll come back. Bill Mackey,
Yes.
Peters,
Aye.
Preston, Joe Preston,
Yes.
Pelosa,
Yes.
Warwick,
Yes.
Winfield.
Yes.
Grant, are you still with us? Grant Jones. Mr. Chair, right now I have 9 of 10 members.
Okay.
And then on the motion that's on the screen, will we do one motion for both of those?
I think it's probably easier to do it that way.
One vote for both motions? Sorry.
Okay, let's go back to the, oh,
I'm sorry, I'm back. I had to go get a charger for my phone. I have to use my phone as a hotspot.
okay, so Elizabeth, we lost our agenda there.
Sorry, I'm trying to get it back.
There we go. So those are the motions there, folks.
I have a mover of Warwick and a seconder of Ralph Winfield. On the motion, Dennis Krebitz,
Yes.
Jaguar,
Yes.
Harvey,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
Peters,
Aye.
Preston,
Yes.
Pelosa,
Yes.
Warwick,
Yes.
Winfield.
Yes.
And the motion passes.
Thank you very much. Next thing on the agenda, we have minutes of meetings. The Lake Erie Regional Management Committee meeting on February 24th. The Lake Erie Regional Source Protection Committee meeting on October the 3rd, 2019. And the Kettle Creek Source Protection Authority, October 16th, 2019. We have those 3 sets of minutes. Do we have any comments, corrections, anything at all to do with those?
Nope.
Okay. There's no more.
No screen just to receive those minutes. If I could have
Okay.
a mover and seconder.
Okay.
Motion to receive. Matt.
Okay, Bill is moving to receive those 3 sets of minutes, seconded by
Jones.
Greg Jones.
On the motion, Krebitz,
Yes.
Jaguar, Jones,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
Peters,
Aye.
Preston,
Yes.
Yes.
Warwick,
Yes.
Winfield,
Yes.
Stephen Harvey.
Yes.
And the minutes pass.
Okay, thank you. New business, no correspondence. So
No
the next,
correspondence.
no, okay, so the next step then is new business, Kettle Creek Annual Progress Report 2019.
Mr. Chair, I have no report other than what was put out in the advance package. I think it's fairly self-explanatory. This is an annual report that we do annually and submit it to the province for approval. It's already been reviewed by the Lake Erie Source Protection region, and staff at Kettle have no further comments and believe and recommend its adoption by this authority.
Okay, any questions at all from the committee? Seeing none. This is the motion in front of you, folks. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by
Warwick?
Warwick, seconded by
Loza?
Loza. Thank you.
On the motion, Krebitz,
Yes.
Jaguar,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
Peters,
Aye.
Preston,
Yes.
Pelosa,
Yes.
Warwick,
Yes.
Winfield,
Yes.
Harvey,
Yes,
and that motion passes.
thank you very much. And then amendments to the Lake Erie Source Protection Region Partnership Agreement. Motion, sorry, Elizabeth.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. The report is correct. The agenda item was wrong. This is really, the report was based on proposed amendments to the Lake Erie Source Protection Committee's rule of procedure. So
Oh, sorry.
what this is it was basically updating the rules of procedure for the Lake Erie Source Protection Committee that allows for electronic meetings. What they are asking is that each source protection authority adopt those committee rules as well. So this is very administrative, and staff have no further report on it.
Remember the last meeting. Okay. So I need a motion from someone for this mover for this motion, please.
So moved. Joe Preston.
Preston.
Jaguar, I'll second.
Jaguar, thank you.
On the motion, Krebitz,
Yes.
Jaguar,
Yes.
Harvey,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Mackey, Peters,
Aye.
Preston,
Yes.
Pelosa,
Yes.
Winfield,
Yes.
and that motion passes.
Thank you very much. Thanks, folks, for helping us through that agenda. Next meeting as required. So we'll see when that happens. Okay, let's go back to our full authority. We have to go into closed session now. So I need a motion to enter closed session. Do we want to take a 5-minute recess or you want to just keep plodding through?
Keep plodding.
Okay. So let's move to closed session to discuss legal, personnel, and property matters. Motion by
Jones.
Winfield, seconded by Jones. All in favor? Elizabeth?
Krebitz,
Yes.
Jaguar,
Yes.
Harvey,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
Peters,
Aye.
Preston,
Yes.
Pelosa,
Yes.
Warwick,
Yes.
Winfield.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you very much. So the closed agenda package, the phone number is at the top. It is a dial-in number only. We've done this before, so I'm sure it won't be a problem. If you do have a problem, then give us a call back. Okay. With that in mind, anyone who we won't reconvene to finish off the full authority meeting, so we'll just do that on the phone. Correct, Elizabeth?
That's right. The minutes will be posted, the draft minutes will be posted tomorrow, and the next meeting is scheduled for June 17th.
Perfect. Thank you very much, folks, for taking part today, and we will talk to you on the phone in a couple of minutes.